Yeah, let me talk with the supervisor and see. I mean, part of the issue is it has to be a statewide directive. We have the person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and you found a part. So, yeah, I think that would be something we could look at.
Without getting a ticket.
We.
All right.
Can we
I'm
go
ready.
on these two?
Take
their call?
Yeah,
Great.
can you smell it? It's gross. Okay. I'm sorry.
Next on.
Yep. Good. There we go. Thanks.
All settled in?
Hey, I'm ready to go. Let's get rolling.
The October 15th, 2024 meeting of the county commission will be on the order. We start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of
the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we start, all commissioners are present. And the first item on the agenda will be the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to so move? Second. Mr. Ross, Mr. Rostard, second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That. Approval of the order of agenda. Are there any changes that you want to make or add additions to the agenda today?
I would,
Go ahead, Sandy.
I would move approval.
Second that. Commissioner Pete.
Teamwork.
So good.
All in favor of that motion to approve the order of agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah. Then the consent agenda consists of bills, employee status changes, overtime, and a bond for a check reissue. That's item 5A through D. Does any commissioner would like to revisit any of those items? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'd move approval.
Mr. Hagan, second. Second. Mr. Ross, all in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both. Yeah. Mr. Woods, you get to go early today. This is from the the agenda from the Northern Plains UAS Festival.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, commissioners, for letting me talk today. Trevor Woods, Executive Director of the Northern Plains US Test Site. Obviously, I've talked to you before about the tower that we requested a permit for south of town. Appreciate the opportunity to provide an update on where we're at. I've been working with Mr. Ford to ensure that we are in communication with Grand Forks Air Force Base, specifically Colonel Monroe and his team. And so we've had some follow-on conversation with him and his team to provide technical information, the intent of what the tower is going to be used for, to have the radar up on the tower, just basically provide any kind of information that they're seeking to ensure that whatever may happen with that tower, that radar is not doing anything to jeopardize the current or future missions of the Grand Forks Air Force Base, or put the county in any sort of position that would not be helpful for us. And so we've had some very open, transparent conversations. He has taken that information and passed it, to his appropriate chain of command within the Air Force, and they are currently under review of that information. We were seeking to have an update from the Headquarters Air Force prior to this commission meeting, but Colonel Monroe gave us an update just last week, Mr. Ford and I, that we will likely not hear an update from Air Force until sometime in November at this time. So we stand by. I've had some additional conversations with Colonel Monroe just to make sure that he's aware that we are committed to being a good partner, a good tenant. If anything comes out of the Air Force that's of concern, of course, we are open and willing to commit to the mitigations necessary to make sure everyone's comfortable. If there are concerns, that we work through them, put the right controls in place. And so we're having that conversation. One more update, and then I'll pause if there's any questions. You might have noticed last week, Senator Hoban at the UAS Summit made an announcement that the Northern Plains Test Site, specifically the state of North Dakota, is entering into an agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration for us to receive a radar feed from the FAA directly. As a result of that agreement, my team and any of our subcontractors are going to be required to go through clearancing processes in order to handle that data. The Mission and Network Operations Center, where this data will be managed and housed, is also going to be subject to new physical and cybersecurity mitigations that will have to be put in place as well. This was information that we knew was potentially going to be there, but it was not able to be publicly disclosed at the time to propose the tower. But now that Senator Hoban has made that public, I can talk a little bit further about that. And so Colonel Monroe is aware of that as well. Obviously, we'll have to wait to hear what Headquarters Air Force comes back and requests any additional information or conversations with us. But like I said, I'm committed to make sure that, you know, we are being good tenants to the Air Force Base through Grand Sky. We're not going to do anything to harm the county or the Grand Forks Air Force Base in any current or future missions. And so with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Any questions?
Maybe a comment, I'm just glad to see that all the people are at the table. And so, you know, it's a collaborative effort, yeah, so I appreciate that from Vantas and the Air Force Base alike.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add too, Trevor, I think it's great what Northern Plains Test Site has done to further develop the UAS mission out there, so thank you.
You appreciate it. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
What's your shot?
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. I'm Cynthia Schaab with Global Friends Coalition. And I appreciate the invitation. We go on. So I want to just ground on my presentation as to who a refugee is. Refugees are people who have fled because of war, persecution of race. Right now, we have the most refugees because of displacement. You can think of all the countries, I won't name them. And so when they are displaced, when we're resettling someone, they generally have gone to a neighboring country. They fled to a neighboring country, and then we are resettling them from the country where they fled from. Or, yeah, I think I said that right.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, good. Go ahead. So Global Friends Coalition has been around since 2008. We brought on paid staff in 2011, and I have been with the group since 2011. We have three main programs: a family mentors and adult education program that's been going on ever since I started in 2011. This is, we get volunteers from the community and place them in the homes of refugees. We have an English class that we offer both in person once a week and an online class. Our Resilient Youth is in the high schools primarily. We place mostly UND students with high school EL, English language learners. And our community outreach is giving talks and hosting events. We recently had a community picnic. The slide is a little bit small there, but does show we had about 600 people attend at University Park in September. Refugee resettlement, we applied for that actually started in 2022 and it opened in 2023. We are now an affiliate of Church World Service, which is a global network basically doing resettlement across the United States. And the county, the city, Grand Forks Public Schools, Spectre Health, all supported our application, which led to us being a resettlement site. If you recall, Lutheran Social Services of North Dakota was around for many, many years and closed its doors for the state in 2021. And there was no one doing resettlement. And that was at the time in 2022 and 2023 when we had a large influx of refugees. And so Global Friends decided to give resettlement a try. And so it took about 9 months before we heard. So our first arrival was in May of 2023. So we're just in really a little over a year. The other aspect that we are working on is immigration legal services. We do citizenship applications, employment authorization documents. It's called adjustment of status. When refugees come, they have to wait a year before they can adjust to get a green card. And then the government takes about 2 to 2.5 years to process that application. But we are, I and one other staff member, Adam Portwingler, are partially accredited legal representatives and can do some forms. We can't represent people in court, but we can fill out some of the legal forms for people. Go ahead, next slide. So a refugee's journey, kind of already alluded to it. You live in a place where you're threatened, you flee to a neighboring country. Very often you're fleeing on foot. You're finding a way to a relatively safe country next door to you for the most part. You apply to be a refugee to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. I'll use UNHCR in the future here. And if you get approved, then you are allowed to live in that country where you fled and you can get protection. Now, I say a refugee camp, not all of our refugees are living in camps anymore. They're called urban refugees and can also just be displaced and living amongst the people that were born in that country. So it's not always a refugee camp as it was when I first started, where we had Somali and Bhutanese, Nepali speakers. They were living in refugee camps. Many of ours have, but many are also living just in Lebanon, for example, where the war is just recently getting worse right now. They were just living urban refugees. And I'm happy to take any questions. Next slide. This is just a screen for your own information in terms of all the vetting that goes on. They register with the United Nations. They have an initial interview. Every person in the family has that interview separately. So that in my case, I have a husband and 2 children. They would interview each person to see if the story matches, to see, you know, if you're really the mom and if you all say the same thing. There are background checks, 3 background checks. They do fingerprint screenings. They are now doing iris screenings as well to make sure that Kimberly goes and gets her food at the refugee camp with the iris scan, and she's only doing it at a certain time. So they've really ramped up in terms of technology for some of these things. The case is reviewed at U.S. Immigration Headquarters. Again, they do a lot of medical screening. They have a cultural orientation class that they're required to attend before they come here. They're matched with an American resettlement agency. In our case, it's Church World Service. And then they are only allowed to travel if that has happened within the 6-month period. So if, for example, they did that within 6 months and it's 7 months, they're back to the beginning again and they have to go through everything all over again. So we have had a few cases, not many, where they weren't allowed to travel in the period of time and then they are back to the beginning again and have to wait. There always is a final security check at the airport as well. You probably have questions about what refugees receive. They get a federal loan for airfare when they reach their 90th day. So they've been in the United States 90 days. Global Friends helps them get their loan started. Most people are paying about $35 a month to pay back that loan. If you can imagine being in a large family, the airfare would typically be quite large for a family, a bigger family. So they do pay that back over the years. We have had some families already pay it outright. So some people just want to build that credit right away. There is a one-time payment that's given to us as the agency resettling them. It's $1,250. And that really goes for all of the initial housing. So we have a family coming this week. I put an $830 deposit down on an apartment. That money, the $1,250 for each person in the family, will go for the actual monthly rental fee, utility costs, phone we get. They're called straight talk phones. You get a $45 card, so you can use it. That's what that money is used for. Winter is coming. We'll purchase winter coats with that money. So that's how that money is used. And we are tracking that money in more than one way, but there's a system that all refugee resettlement sites use, and it's a database that tracks that. They do get refugee medical assistance for 12 months, and then they get refugee cash assistance, unless they get a job and the job equals the cash assistance given to them. So one person gets $537 a month. You don't triple that. For 3 people, you'll see it's $915 for 3 people a month. So if they get a job and they make that amount, then they do not get refugee cash assistance. Refugee cash assistance has rules. They have to attend English classes. 65% of the English classes every week that are offered to them. I'll talk a little bit about that later. And they have to follow what's called a family self-sufficiency plan. This is relatively new for the state. It's really coming out now for us because the state has just unveiled a new computer system, database system, and we will be tracking things like, have they had job information given to them? Are they getting some job skills, interview skills, things like that to make themselves sufficient? Next slide, please. This is a little bit smaller, but it just kind of breaks it down. So we have a lot of work to do within 90 days. That's the dictum that we are given with Church World Service. And then there's money, there's a program called Resettlement Support Services that the state of North Dakota has implemented, and that's to provide refugees with support up to 5 years. There's no cash involved in that for them. It's really helping them continue to look for jobs, help them gain more skills, get better jobs. We are definitely the office where people go to for help with assistance, with SNAP, with housing assistance if there's a need, if their income is low enough. So people come to us to help with those 21-page applications. I think it is 21 pages. It's pretty long anyway. So within that time, we're making sure that kids get enrolled in school, that they get a certain amount of doctor's appointments. There are 3 that are required, and those are done at Spectra Health. And we make sure that, so school enrolled, that the adults get enrolled in English classes, and medical appointments are met. That's good. I'm sorry. This was provided to us by the state refugee health coordinator. It just kind of gives you a snapshot of North Dakota in general. So this year we will have resettled as a state 325. And remember, this fiscal year is October 1st to September 30th. So this is for FY24. So we're now in FY25. So actual numbers of refugees was 325. We are resettling some SIVs, special immigrant visas. These are people that have served the military or the US government in their own country. So Grand Forks, for example, has some Afghan special immigrant visas that served the US government there. So this is a snapshot for the state. If you look at the next slide, you'll see it just shows where people are coming from. And so we've got, and that's too hard for me to see from here. So off the top of my head, we've got people coming from Afghanistan, from Central and South America, and then from Africa. Yes.
Skipped over UHPs and asylees. Can you brush on that for a minute?
Sure. So asylees, there are none in the state. Those are people who have come and gone to the border and proclaimed that they need asylum. Thank you. And then they get paperwork that lets them go to wherever they are headed in the United States. In order to be an asylee, you have to have filed asylum. Most asylum attorneys charge $10,000 to $12,000 to file an asylum application. We in our office are not attorneys, so we can't represent people on asylum cases. In order to get an attorney, we refer them to some nonprofits in Minneapolis, actually, that take cases. I don't really know the rhyme or reason why they take some and why they don't take others. And so we just, in this, North Dakota doesn't have very many immigrant attorneys. Sue Swanson is probably one, and she's now located in Florida, but her office is still really close to you downtown here. But she's probably the best in the state, and she's very expensive. What do you think about that? But that's my thought. So we have had some attorneys, and I'm trying to remember what I don't have you that acronym, and I should have looked that up. it doesn't apply to Grand Forks, so I'm not sure I know. I'd have to Google it. I can get back to you though. I can send it to, Tom. It's not gonna come to me. Sorry. Maybe it'll come to me as I go. So I'll just keep, go one more over. So you'll see that really resettlement has changed in Grand Forks, in North Dakota. It used to be Grand Forks, well, it used to be Fargo with the biggest, Grand Forks second, and Bismarck. And now you'll see it's really spread out into others. And did you find it?
Does this sound right? Ukrainian humanitarian parole?
Yes, that is it. So Bismarck has the most Ukrainians. Thank you so much. We haven't resettled through Global Friends any Ukrainians. They're just not coming through any of our lists. But there's a lot in Bismarck, right? Does it show that?
Oh,
89. They're primarily all in Bismarck and Fargo. Yeah, I apologize. I learned that I'm never gonna know all the acronyms. It's like a 5-page sheet. So I think the point of this slide is that it's other cities now doing some resettlement, and I don't really have an opinion on other communities taking it on, but some people really wanted it distributed across the state, so that this is happening now. Shifting to just Grand Forks, in the next slide, you'll see that this year, this is for FY 2025, we have said a green light to 120 total individuals. By that, the breakdown will be 25 refugees with US ties, so they've got to have somebody here that they know to come. 75 refugees with US ties. Oh, without, sorry, I'm like, wait. So most people come without a US tie. 20 special immigrant visas. So those will primarily be people from Afghanistan. And it's just a known, the resettlement sites can always resettle 10% above that capacity. This year we were down for 110 and we ended up with 114 in FY 24. The next slide shows the resettlement over the years in Grand Forks. So you can see the dip there in numbers from 2019 to 2023. And so in 2019, there were just 5 people. In 2023, we had 59. This is in Grand Forks. And then in 2024, we had 114. Lutheran Immigration Refugee Services was serving Grand Forks in some of 2023. So those aren't all of ours in 2023. If that makes sense. The next slide shows who we resettled from October 1st, 2023 to September 30th. As I mentioned, 114 individuals, 45 cases, 42 households. I never really understood how to do average family size of 2.8. Cut one child in half or something, I don't know. And then you see the country breakdown there. So I got some of them right. So Colombia, Pakistan, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Guatemala, Afghanistan, Somalia, Ethiopia. And most of the people coming from Ethiopia were originally born in Somalia or from Somalia. So we have upcoming arrivals. Next slide. We have a family of 4 from Afghanistan in that special immigrant visa status. They are coming from Qatar, and they have a family tie here who will be with them, greeting them. And a family of 5 originally from Nicaragua is coming on next Wednesday. And they have a friend who was really anxious to get them, someone we resettled last spring. The next slide kind of shows, I think, good news. Our self-sufficiency rating is fairly strong, with then 2024 arrivals, 19 out of 22 cases were self-sufficient at the end of 90 days. So that's just 3 months, and 79, which is 79.2%. So what that means in the lingo of the resettlement agency that we are affiliated with is that household income from all sources is greater than household expenses. And I have to report that for every case that comes. Our employment, very strong employment. Of the 75 individuals resettled from 2023, we had 41, let's see. 41 were employable adults, and 18 of those 41 were employed within 90 days. But many then become employed right after the 90 days. Really, 90 days is not very long because we have to make sure that they have their social security cards, they get their bank accounts, they get enrolled in school, they get their kids enrolled in school, starting to look for jobs and getting jobs. It's usually around that 4th month instead of the 3rd month that everything comes into play. So that is what I have for you. We have grown from just 2 people to staff there. A lot of those are half-time people, but certainly have a great positive team with lots of energy, lots of young energy. I heard on the phone today, one case manager telling the other he was brave and doing a great job. So it's a lot of fun to work with these folks. Just really keep me moving and buoyant. We have one man, we call him Philippe. Philippe. He has been in the US just 1 year, and he's attending Northland. He came through Lutheran Immigration Services before we started doing resettlement. And he is an excellent case manager because he's gone through the steps himself. And he's just the most positive person. If you want a positive response to how the bus works in Grand Forks, ask Philippe. Don't ask me. Because he's just very grateful to be here. Gratitude is what I hear every day. From not just Philippe, but everybody we've resettled. I take any questions from you.
Do we have questions?
Yeah, I do.
Repeat.
Obviously, we have people coming from various cultures throughout the world. And with culture comes food. And so obviously, their a way of food, their idea of consuming foods that we're not used to, and they're probably not used to coming into the United States. How do they access foods of their preference?
So I do rely on a lot of volunteers, especially within those first 90 days. And most people are shopping at Walmart. And you know, you can get rice and a lot of cultural food actually at Walmart. Some of the ethnic stores like Al Amin, International, those are great stores. They tend to be a little on the higher price side, but they're doing a lot with spices. In fact, I just asked somebody, you know, where he got most of his food, and he said Walmart. And then they supplement some of those spices from the ethnic stores in the area. Great. Thankfully, we do have some now that we didn't have before. So that helps a lot. But they are in my head just now. I saw a flash of a home with a 50-pound bag of flour. And so they use a whole lot more flour than I would use. But they're managing. In fact, I think their diets are better from their own countries than our diets.
Yes.
And that's why we see a higher prevalence of diabetes once they've been here a while. You know, too many carbs and too many, what is it called? I'm not thinking of the right word. You know, preserved foods.
Additives and preservatives and
Yeah.
food dyes and things like
Right. Yep. So thanks for asking. And so volunteers, we make sure that volunteers help them each week to get groceries until they can get there on their own.
And I'm glad to see they're utilizing the services that are available within our community. That's wonderful.
We have been having to use some of the food pantries. We're grateful to them. Not that I'm giving an advertisement for Hope Care Center, but they allow people to shop based on, you know, need and family size, and then they can pick out things that they really want. And vegetables are free there because nobody apparently vegetables are not a real big seller. So you can go there and get some.
They have a lot of people that donate there, and then different organizations in town bring the food, and there's a lot of extras that they have. They have like a point system, and you can
Right.
go through different classes, and if you do certain classes, you can earn more points to buy more food. That's nice.
Thank you.
I had
Any
a-
other, oh,
I had a question about, the school part. There sounds like a lot of kids are gonna be, or are enrolled in different schools throughout Grand Forks County. Or is it just in Grand Forks?
Just Grand Forks.
Just, okay. So how does that affect the school? Who at the school is helping with these children that might maybe have a language barrier or getting them acclimated with what the school process is here in America? Because I understand, as we all do, our school is having a hard time maybe with having teachers or class sizes and things like that. So how does that affect? Does that
Well,
make sense?
I appreciate that question because I was on the school board up until June when I realized I could not do this program anymore and be on the school board. Too many meetings. I personally think Grand Forks has a very robust English language program. They've switched to ML multi-language. Ivona Todorovich was Teacher of the Year in 2023, I believe. She is now the program coordinator for the EL program for the Grand Forks Public Schools. And this shift this year, the Grand Forks Public Schools spread it out. So it used to be it was Winship, Century, and some in Discovery. And now we have families in just about every school. But each school has an EL, English language, ML, multi-language coordinator. But Ivona meets the family at the beginning and tests every child to see which level they're at in English. And then depending on where we've managed to find an apartment for them, then they get sent to the school that's closest to them that has EL program. Ben Franklin unfortunately does not have an ML program right now. And a lot of the kids live in that area and they are bused to Winship. So at each school, there's a teacher, an English teacher, who's working with those kids being pulled out.
My question was just making sure that there was enough teachers and staff and resources for those kids that were coming in.
I think the Grand Forks Public Schools could definitely use more funding.
Yeah.
But I think that at the teacher level, what I see there is phenomenal. And great growth amongst the kids.
I did have one follow-up, okay, not follow-up, but the question that came to mind was the 12 months for like the cash assistance for 12 months. You said something about a program they're supposed to be following to continue to get that money.
Yep.
So if they come to their 12 months and they don't have a job or something, like how do you, sorry, you don't get any more money and you can't pay your rent, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, basically,
Yeah.
it's only good for 1 year. We have very few families, to be honest, that stay on it for that amount of time. Especially now, jobs have gotten much better in terms of that basic pay. $20 an hour is kind of what's going right now. And so if they're working, and getting that amount of money, very often they're cashing out of cash assistance. And it isn't cash, it's on a like a debit card. But yeah, you would be correct. I did have a conversation recently with somebody who said, you're reaching your 1 year and it's going to be on you because there's no more money. I mean,
I'm sure they're hard conversations,
but we have very few. I would say the majority get off refugee cashes. You can make more money if you look at the amount getting a job than you can using refugee cash assistance. And that's a federal program. So it's not like city dollars, county dollars. Other questions?
any other questions? Thank you.
Yeah, I hope I wasn't too long. I was trying not to be. Thank you so much for the
Thank you.
invitation.
Bye-bye. Human service though, here. Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Tammy Knudsen. I'm the director with the Human Service Zone. I'm here today to request approval to purchase a vehicle. I have proceeded with the state procurement process, have located a vehicle out of Fergus Falls, through Nelson Auto Center. And, the, money I do have in my budget, I was allotted or have budgeted for $40,000 for this year to purchase a vehicle. I have approval from the Department of Health and Human Services, to purchase the vehicle. The vehicle that I've located is a 2025 Ford Explorer, for $39,784. So I'm very close, however, I do have a 2014, Dodge Grand Caravan that I would be looking to trade on that. And they've indicated that they would give me $3,600 for it. So, in the end, if that's the plan, I would be looking at $36,184 for the purchase of this vehicle.
This is all been budgeted for.
Yes, out of my budget.
I'll move approval.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Bruston, second by Commissioner Peach. Any further discussion or questions for her?
I have just one question on that trade-in. So I used to be the sheriff. So I used to ship my vehicles down to an auction house down in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Where, and David can talk about that right now.
Mid-state scene.
Yeah, Mid-State Auto Auction. And we were getting good money for something that, you know, a dealer would not normally give you, so. That would be something to explore
Okay.
too, so
Yeah, I could definitely look at that. That would be. the
what would you think, David?
Well, I was told we have a Dodge Caravan that we're gonna get rid of. It's a 2019 with 160,000 miles on it, and I was told probably 10 grand
Okay.
on that. So I don't know how many miles yours has on it.
Yeah.
Condition,
The
but
2014 is about 90,000.
we drive our vans.
Yeah.
Like, do they take anybody's trade in? Like, they come in? I mean, I got another
I
kid,
just-
I'm probably gonna need a bigger vehicle.
I just found that, we were getting a lot of money on the trade for those when they went to the auction house, so. If you want, David's got the number for that gal down there. And he can give that to you. You
Okay.
can check with her.
I think the sheriff's department was leaving a little evidence in the back of those vehicles. I'll get 10 grand for a Dodge Caravan.
I was just as surprised as you were with it.
All right, any other questions?
No.
For discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Veteran service.
I'm gonna get one.
Oh my God.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, my topic is Operation Greenlight again, in conjunction with Veterans Day. Looking, I have in your packet, I believe it's page 51, the resolution for review and signature by the chair. It's the first document, and that's asking our community partners, members, of lay up their businesses, buildings, and residents screening during the week of the 4th through the 11th of November.
I make that
Yeah.
motion with chair's signature.
Second.
It's fairly easy for you. Second, Mr. Rustis, Commissioner Hagus, first consider motion in second. Any other questions for?
I have another document in there as well. The next page is for like a letter to the editor again, like last year, for your signature as well. Mr. Ford has said he'd help me out with getting that in the paper. And then we're gonna coordinate with the city like we did last year to light up the bridge screen here at the Solar Bridge.
I'll amend my motion to reflect that.
All right,
Probably reflect that.
so we have, signature here on these two places or one? Both places,
You take one.
Right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Steel. Resource.
Good afternoon, Chair Ann and Commissioners. I have the fabulous topic of NV PERS to discuss. I sent a document to you last week. I also have a printed copy on your desk in case you want to review it for anything. I'll just touch on the key points. This is regarding the NV PERS Defined Contribution 2025 Plan, also called the DC 25 Plan. So the key points that are from the document that I sent out last week is January 1st of 2025, the closure of the current defined benefit plan. With that closure, it will not impact any of our current employees that are on the defined benefit plan. It just does not allow new people to go on to that plan, with the exception of the public safety plan, because it's already in place. So a new hire for public safety, if they are a post-certified deputy, they automatically go to the public safety plan. If they are a correctional officer, as soon as they finish CO basic, they automatically go to the public safety plan. Effective January 1st of 2025, qualifying new hires will be enrolled in this DC 25 plan. So the DC 25 plan has two matching provisions. One is mandatory. That mandatory provision is that it's tied to whether or not the employee chooses to contribute up to an additional 3% of their salary directly into the DC 25 plan within the first 30 days of employment. They have to make that choice within the first 30 days, and they cannot change it. They cannot decide to do it after the 31 days to go directly into their DC 25 plan. So what the legislation did, they knew that they needed some flexibility because sometimes people are not ready to make that commitment in the first 30 days. So they have a voluntary matching. So with the voluntary matching, what that would be is it's tied to whether or not the county, the commission chooses to match up to 3% of the total employee contribution into a qualified 457 companion plan. And that can be done at any time during employment. The maximum liability to the county is 3% of matching. If they do 1% into their defined contribution 25 plan, then the max that you would have to match in a 457 would be 2%. The commission would need to determine if the county is going to participate in the voluntary matching option. This voluntary matching option was figured into the 2025 budget with Ms. Nelson. So it's already been approved in the budget. It would only impact the new employees. And we would need to determine today, you'd need to determine if you wish to participate in the voluntary plan. If you choose yes, then the second choice that needs to be made is whether or not the county enrolls in the ND PERS 457 plan, or if we modify the current 457 plan we have. With our current 457 plan, there is no matching. Anything that's put in there is put in strictly by the employee. So we would need to make that modification. So there's 2 to 3 action items depending on your choices for today. The first is a required motion that affirms the county joining the DC 25 plan. They're closing the other plan. We have to go to the DC 25 plan, and PERS has provided us specific language for this plan. I'll read through it, and I also gave a copy of it to Ms. Nelson because they wrote how the motion needs to be. So it would be the motion is made by, and we put the board member's name for the Grand Forks County to affirm the North Dakota Public Employees Retirement System that Grand Forks County is formed pursuant to North Dakota Century Code 11-0101 and 11-0119 and is neither a nonprofit corporation or a for-profit corporation. And it's to join the ND PERS Deferred Compensation Plan and to offer the plan to all eligible employees of the Grand Forks County. The motion would be seconded by whoever would second, and the board approved joining the NV PERS Deferred Compensation Plan effective January 1st of 2025. So that's my first piece, would be someone to agree to that motion, and to second the motion, and then for the board to vote on the motion. And it's kind of backwards because they're closing the other plants, so we really don't have an option.
Any questions before making the motion? Do we have a motion?
I don't know, move forward on the motion.
Commissioner Peach, seconded by Commissioner Hagan. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
So the second piece is that piece regarding the matching. So it would be for the commission to decide whether or not to participate in the voluntary contribution matching into a 457 plan. And if you say yes, then the third piece would be, do we go with the NV PERS plan or do we go with the county plan?
Is this also budgeted for?
This is, yep, all of this is in the budget.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
We didn't realize when we were putting the budget together, that we had to go this route. To be very honest, I was under the impression the NV PERS 457 plan was going to be there, and I didn't realize that they were gonna make it voluntary.
If it's budgeted for and it's in the approved budget, I'll move approval of the second piece.
Okay, so the second piece would be the NV PERS 457 plan. That's my recommendation, is we go with that and not go with modifying our current plan.
I second that motion.
Are you having one motion? Cause he moved
Right, so I
to
was
do the
gonna,
matching. And then you added who were doing the matching.
right, and so before he,
So are we gonna
Yes,
have
sir.
two questions?
we're gonna end up with two motions now, I think we're
Well,
gonna have to.
let's get a second then
Okay.
on that.
Okay,
Need a second.
Second by Commissioner Ross.
Yeah.
Motion by Commissioner Ross did, second by Commissioner Ross. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
okay, so the very last piece then is, my recommendation would be that we enroll in the NV PERS 457 plan, as it's tied in with the DC 25 plan through PERS, and it's the most efficient process to manage with the voluntary action. So I would request a motion for the county to enroll in the NV PERS 557 deferred comp plan with the chair's signature on the application.
I'd make that
Motion by
motion.
Commissioner Ross,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ross did. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Or-
Thank you. There you go. Type you out, but this is.
Bureau Relocation Committee update.
Commissioner Ross, Commissioner Hagan, do you want me to start on it?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I can walk us through this topic. So as you know, we put out an RFP for existing or new build for the sheriff's location. We received 7 proposals. We invited 3 entities to present to the committee. 3 of those proposals were new build and 1 was a remodel of an existing facility. So after some extensive conversation, review, discussion, the committee is going to recommend the Heartland Acres development proposal. The proposals overall scored well in many of the criteria, such as location, availability of personnel, work experience, safety records. But where Heartland Acres really separated itself from the others was in costs. And so that's really where the committee is coming in with a recommendation, as the Heartland Acres answered satisfactory all the criteria, but really separated itself in cost. The proposed location would be 3003 Heartland Drive. The proposal calls for 12,500 square feet with an additional 9,000 square feet. That would be an option to exercise if the commission and the sheriff wanted to. 10-year lease with options to renew or terminate or purchase. The developer will cover the CAM over the first 10 years of the agreement if we were to execute it. The base lease rate would be $20 per square foot or $250,000 annual rent. If the commission were to exercise all alternatives that were also asked for in the RFP, that would bring it to $24 a square foot or $519,000 a year in lease rent. Base purchase price would be $2 million after 10 years if the commission were to go that route. If the commission were to approve all the alternatives, that purchase price would be $5 million guaranteed at the end of the term. So that wouldn't be based on financing, debt carrying, or market appraisals. It would be $10 million. The developer has also committed to, if the commission went with the full alternative, the developers would donate $750,000 towards that proposal. So that breaks down for the commission awareness for the base $20,833 a month, with the alternatives $43,250 a month. For comparison, the next lowest proposal, Heartland, was $23,179 lower in the lease rate. But the next lowest was $36 a square foot, and that was just the base, not with alternates. And that was based on a remodel of an existing property. So the committee is comfortable and happy to recommend Heartland Acres development proposal contingent on the Measure 4 vote. Obviously, if that passes, a lot of things change for conversations, but I think if the commission were to move forward with this proposal, we wait to see what happens on that Measure 4. And then I would recommend then probably the next step would be the sheriff, Ms. Wamstead, and myself sitting down with the developer to start talking about letters of intent to bring back to the commission. So that's our recommendation, and happy to stand for any questions. I don't know if the sheriff or commissioners Hagan or Ross have anything to add, or Ms. Nelson.
No, I think it was a really good process. I think we evaluated everything very fairly. I think Heartland's proposal is, you just can't beat it, really. It was one of a kind.
Yeah, everybody did a really great job. All the organizations that brought us proposals and their presentations and the information given, they all went above and beyond. This, decision obviously was based on Austin. But it was a good process. I would say that was good that we did that.
What kind of turnaround time are they looking at as far as construction, building?
I believe the building, Ross, remind me, I was gonna say he's right there, but
I'm here.
it's early as May of next year. We could move in. Am I getting that date correct?
So Mr. Hubner is here, correct? And I basically the one question we asked was, well, if we say no, are you still proceeding with the building? And the answer was yes. So they're proceeding. So, I mean, they're starting on the building, and yes, ma'am, you're correct. May 2025 would be about the estimated hand over the key date. So, which, if you remember the city's timeline, that
They will be happy.
they will be happy about. Yes.
Very happy.
Yeah, they're gonna be thrilled. They might pay for the extra keys.
So what motion needs to be made here?
I would, Miss Wamstead agrees, I would first recommend a roll call on this, but recommendation would be to move forward with the Heartland Acres proposal contingent on the outcome of the Measure 4.
Right.
And when you say contingent on the outcome,
If it's a no, if the measure is defeated, we move forward.
if measure 4 passes, is the motion then null and void and we have to start over?
Yes, sir.
All right, do we have a motion? Commissioner Hagan,
That motion.
Second,
second by Commissioner Ross. Any further discussion or questions? We will do a roll call vote. Commissioner Ross,
yes.
Commissioner Rusted,
Recused.
Mr. Hagan. Commissioner Beach.
Yeah.
And I'm a yes. So, one recusal. Very good. All right, thank you. Ms. Nelson, you had some things for us today?
So today I would like you to set the minimum sale price of the county tax title property. Motion here. There's 15 properties that were taken October 2nd. And I would recommend the board approve the appraised value of the real estate acquired by tax deed and to set the minimum sale price at the minimum amount of 3 years taxes due plus special assessment, penalties, interest and costs plus an amount equal to the estimated taxes and specials for the current assessment year, and set the property appraisal hearing for November 5th, 2024 at 4 p.m.
Mr. Beach,
I would move for approval of that.
Second,
Commissioner Ross, second. Any questions for Ms. Nelson on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
The next item is eviction notices. They must be, served 20 days before the property is sold. And I need a motion to approve the notices of, intention to evict, and with the chair's signature and the state's.
Would you just explain that for those of us who haven't been involved in this so far?
So the sheriff will, if there's a structure on the property, serve the notice of intent to evict. A lot of times it triggers people to pay their taxes when they get that notice. But
And I think you told me earlier that some may not be a house on the property, but if there's a structure on the property, they have to serve it.
yes, we serve it because we don't, someone could say I'm living in that house or garage. And so we make sure we serve them.
Any questions of the Nelson?
No, I make the motion.
Mr. Ross, move to approve. Second,
Second.
Mr. Peach. Any further discussion or questions?
So if the eviction notices go out, and let's say that the building structures there are clearly uninhabitable. Is the county then responsible to make sure that that property is cleared of that uninhabitable domain? So that it doesn't become a
Rat nest.
yes, or a facility that is not safe for people in the surrounding area. Kids playing, whatever the case may be. But we made sure that that is cleared and we dismantle it.
We could, it's our property, so it's gonna happen.
But is there any, is there any requirement that we safeguard building? Because I would think not, maybe. Ms. Wamstead would know that off the top of your head. We shouldn't have any liability if there's a shack standing somewhere and we don't tear it down right away, would we? Is there anything you see there as a militia?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I think any potential liability would be pretty small because the county would move to sell the property within short order.
Right, true.
Yes, our sale will be in
That's right.
November, the third Tuesday in November, so.
All right,
We hope that it is not county property and someone else's property.
So did we complete that motion?
I don't think we.
I mean-
You didn't vote on it.
We voted yet. Oh, you got a question? Yep. So, any further questions? And all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Passed unanimously. All right, that's it for you.
that's it for me.
Mr. Ford, County Administrator.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I had sent an email to the commission. Grant Sky was wanting to make a request to upgrade the BV loss system with state appropriated funds. And Mr. Sawyer's online. I'm just gonna kick it over to him if that's all right, Mr. Chair.
It's fine.
Good afternoon, Commissioner and Mr. Commissioners and Mr. Ford. Thank you for this opportunity. The commission had approved some time ago a what's called a resilience maintainability availability study for the beyond line of sight system at Grand Sky. So we were starting to get outages, we were starting to get downtime, and we needed to review why that was happening and what we needed to do to harden the system. Also, what tasks we needed to take on to make the system more capable with the growing use that it has, and to start to meet future DoD and FAA security requirements. So that study was complete. It was completed by Thales. And that study revealed 6 specific items that Thales recommended. We have worked with Thales to refine that, and there are 3 specific items that we recommend moving forward with. And that recommendation comes with a price tag not to exceed $863,000 of the 2023 legislative appropriations. And so we request release of that money so that we can complete tasks 3, 4, and 5, if you wanted to know about them, for network synchronization, reducing our equipment footprint and ability to remotely interrogate the equipment, and real-time reporting and recording of system function is what we intend to do with with those funds. So I'm happy to answer any questions about what this work entails, but we're requesting those funds so we can get started to work on those problems.
Question, any questions first? We have a motion by Commissioner Rosted.
Second.
I think Mr. Hagan's hand is up.
Okay.
She's got her second. Now, any questions of Mr. Sawyer? These are funds that have been allocated already.
Yeah.
All right, hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
I,
What?
I just want to say, I think it's important to note for the record that Thales is the only company with the necessary intellectual property to be the sole source on this. And there isn't another company that could do it.
Sure, good. Thank you.
Apologies for
All
interrupting.
right, thank you, Mr. Ford.
Mr. Chair, I think probably the motion should reflect that as well, that the board waives the competitive procurement because it is a sole source.
Good point. And is that the motion that
I will
You
amend
make-
my motion to exactly what she said.
and I will,
that makes sense to include that? Otherwise, this is a sole source kind of thing. It makes sense. Yeah. So who's the second? Mr. Hagan? All in favor of this motion, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks. See you later, Mr. Sawyer.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Russ, do you mind passing those down like the old days when we were in school?
yeah.
As it's ironic because Ms. Nelson was teasing me because I already have given you guys so much paperwork, so here's some more. And I have quite a list for the commission tonight, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. The first thing I have for the commission is Curry and Company Solutions LLC. And some of you probably recognize that name, Colonel Timothy Curry. He was at Grand Forks Air Force Base. He was a wing commander. Before that, he was the vice wing commander. Before that, forgive me, Mr. Curry, if I get this wrong, but before vice, you were the wing executive officer as well.
That's close, director of staff.
I'll take it. Horseshoes and hand grenades. But Mr. Curry is on, by the way. Staff is today, we're recommending and requesting that we employ the services of Colonel Curry, retired. There are some areas that we need to employ his expertise and his reputation. So this agreement, let me back up, is actually very specific in what the scope of work would be. And the first and the priority would be the fire response that we're working on with Grand Forks Air Force Base. So as the commission is aware, the county received $11.6 million in the DSIP program. We're going to build a fire station on Grand Sky that will provide fire response services to both the EUL and Grand Forks Air Force Base. Grand Forks Air Force Base would staff the billets in this firehouse. The county and the base each need improved fire response at Grand Sky and the base. We know this. So it's a win-win proposition. And it'll be another public-private partnership once this comes to fruition that we can tout. You hear me say P4 a lot. That's what I'm referring to. Personnel is the central component of this DSIP program in this P4. And so county staff feel that Colonel Curry's services are essential in finalizing the necessary agreements with Air Combat Command, with 16th Air Force, with Grand Forks Air Force Base, and then of course the partners out at Grand Sky. So it's multiple, there's going to be multiple agreements, and his expertise can work that far better than I can. The second part of the scope would be strategic economic growth and economic development. For some time, our partners out at Grand Forks Air Force Base and the Air Force overall have been encouraging county leadership to develop a strategy that's very complementary to the growth trajectory of Grand Forks Air Force Base. So these conversations as Commissioner Ingen knows, have been going on for quite a while, actually, with even past wing commanders. What does that include? It includes mission expansion, it includes mission growth, it includes Grand Sky growth, UAS sector growth. Essentially, at the end of the day, let's continue to be the UAS Center of Excellence, but do not do anything that jeopardizes the future of Grand Forks Air Force Base and what's going on out there. And so we would ask Colonel Curry to also work with Grand Forks Air Force Base, the county, our partners on really coming up with that so that we are complementing what's happening out at the base. And as we all know, there are things that are going to happen. We just can't talk about it because they can't tell us. But we just don't want to do harm, right? As we continue to grow our economic engine here. The third and final would be mission and installation resiliency. So in 2018, the DoD prioritized mission resilience regarding strategic basing and BRAC. So that means new missions and base closure. The county in 2020 completed a military installation resiliency review program. I'm going to call it MIR, with funding from Old CC, and we did that on behalf of Grand Forks Air Force Base. Between FY20 and FY23, Old CC awarded $300 million in DSIP funds to other communities to support their MIR programs. That's $552 million in total project cost. I'd like to see some of that come to the county over the next few years. We have our own DSIP award, as you know. And so we've been having, Ms. Leon and I have been having ongoing discussions with base leadership about developing a 5 to 10 year DSIP plan where we as a county every year or every other year are applying for a DSIP grant to provide some form of infrastructure resiliency to the airbase to continue enhancing current and future missions. So with that, the staff wish to employ Colonel Curry's expertise, reputation, and professionalism to accomplish the goals. With the priority would be the fire station and finalizing the firefighter personnel. The agreement before you, 3 specific deliverables. The contract would be executed as soon as both parties have signed, assuming the commission would approve. It includes an hourly rate not to exceed $48,000 annually or 12 hours each month. I have in my budget the funding to get Colonel Curry started through the remainder of FY24. So I don't need a budget amendment, not asking for additional funds. And then in conversations with Mr. Sawyer and in partnership with Grand Sky, I would request 50,000 of the state EUL dollars that are appropriated to fund Colonel Curry's efforts through 2025. So happy to answer any questions. If not, I'd be asking for commissioner approval of the agreement with Curry and Company Solutions and chair signature. I don't know, Mr. Curry, if there's anything you wanted to add.
Mr. Ford, that was fantastic. Other than, thanks for entertaining this. More importantly, thanks for what you guys have been doing historically for the community there and the base. Those three objectives are very aggressive objectives, but they look long-term towards the strategy that honestly was started 10 years ago. So this is something that you need as a community, whether it's me or somebody else. I appreciate what you're focused on.
Thank you.
Questions for Colonel Curry?
No. I would make a motion to approve that agreement.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner Peach. Any other, any thoughts? All right, and then we'll proceed to the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Thank you. Next item, there are two agreements before you with CVIC, and I'm gonna also just say Ms. Lomstead chime in with any thoughts, comments, or corrections. Two agreements. The first is ARPA agreement between the county and the CVIC. This agreement provides the ARPA funds that the county commission designated to fund CVIC's budget request for 2025. This funds the victim witness advocacy services that the county is mandated to provide. So Marcy's Law, Fair Treatment Standards Act, two examples. So would be looking for board approval and chair signature on the ARPA agreement. The dollars would actually be $358,106.40. Ms. Lomstead, is there anything I missed on the ARPA?
Mr. Peach,
I would move approval on the ARPA agreement.
That's a good.
second by Commissioner Hagan. Any questions of Mr. Ford? Or state's attorney? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Next is the lease agreement between the county and CVIC. There's two specific portions of this lease agreement to draw your attention to. The first is the county would provide 1,126 square feet of office space on the north fifth floor tower. That would be for the victim advocacy staff. And you approved that a while ago. And this is an in-kind to offset some of those costs that were reflected in the ARPA agreement. So it offsets the victim advocacy cost to the county. The total in-kind value is $20,073.60. And then the second portion of the lease is a cash-in lease. So the county would agree to lease 1,160 square feet of office space on the fifth floor north tower. $10 a square foot, $560 per pound. So the value would be $18,096 of annual rent due. Happy to answer any questions, and if not, would ask for approval of the two agreements with chair's signature.
I do approval of the agreements.
Commissioner Hagan, motion, second by Commissioner Ross. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously.
I should have added, those are the same rates we charge Northeast Human Services as well.
Mr. Ford contacted me about competitive rates downtown prior to talking about these numbers, and I think they're in range.
We'll have to revisit annually the in-kind just because the CVIC's request will change every year. But I should have mentioned the lease term is 10 years with 3 5-year renewal options. Is that right? Ms. Lomstead?
No, it's 5 years with three 5-year
Okay.
extensions. And then the other thing I would add is it's not only for the space on
Hmm.
5th floor of this building, but also the space utilized by CBIC and courthouses. That's in the in-kind, which offsets the cost of that ARPA fund.
Right, thanks, good catch. All right. Very briefly on the river crossing, the consultants that are working for the city of East Grand Forks, the 4 political subdivisions agree that while we were unsuccessful in our RISE grant, we should apply for another one because we did receive very good feedback from the Department of Transportation regarding certain criteria and how we have to score. Now that we have that feedback, we've agreed that they should go for another RISE grant. So SDR, that company, will be coming before the commission very shortly, probably in the next couple of months to make a presentation. That's just an FYI. And then the last thing I have is myself and then the county's base retention coordinator, Ms. Leon, we're going to be at the ADC Installation Innovation Conference at the end of the month. So Defense Communities Conference. We'll be meeting with a variety of DoD officials, including Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for installations, Old CC, or formerly known as Office of Economic Adjustment. We're also meeting with the Vice Commander of 16th Air Force and the Assistant Secretary of Defense for installations, among a few others. So one exciting tidbit about the conference is there's a session and it's going to highlight University of North Dakota. And so President Armacost will be a panelist. And they asked everyone and everyone said no, so they asked me to moderate the panel. So it'll be it's a general session, so a good spotlight on the community. So that's all I have.
That's it information for us.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wamsit, nothing more? All kinds of questions for you anyway. Committee reports, Commissioner Beach.
The Grand Forks County Human Service Zone met today. They're almost at full capacity as far as hiring. They just have 1 or 2 more positions they need to hire in CPS, I believe, or in economic assistance.
Nope, you were right to begin with.
What?
You were right to begin with.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, CPS. Things are going well. Staff are doing well. Of course, this is the uptick time for the low income heat assistance program. And so they'll be taking calls for that. Staff have been approved to work overtime if they need to because of the excessiveness of the applications. We were told that the LIHEAP applications going into the next season will not be as of a manual process, because if they've already been on LIHEAP and they're reapplying, it will be a shorter application process. So that will be nice for the staff and also nice for the clients. The Child Care Assistance Program has made a change just recently. Individuals who worked in child care facilities were not able to get their child care assistance paid if the child was being cared for in the facility in which they worked. And that has now recently changed. So hopefully that'll make a difference for staffing for the child care facilities, and that more individuals will be willing to be staffed so that they could bring their child to work, quote unquote. November 23rd is the National Adoption Day, and that is a Saturday. They will be finalizing adoptions for 9 children, and that begins at 9 o'clock with the court system. At 10 o'clock, they're going to be having an open house, and the public can come, and they'll have some activities. Last year, I believe there were about 600 people there. Families that have adopted previously come back as kind of a celebration for the fact that they have adopted children. So that's wonderful. And also April through August of this year, there is $26,000 coming back into the county from targeted case management. Staff have to, document billable hours. And they've done a wonderful job in doing that because that's funding that can be used for other purposes within the county. And that's a minute by minute and a unit by unit, billing. So they have to keep very strict track of their time in order to get those funds back. It is available, I believe, for foster care and for in-home consulting. It's the case management. I don't believe they're going to have it for child protection. Thank you. I forgot to put that CP down. The other thing is at the end of September, the staff were under budget and the technology is doing okay. Remember, quite a few computers were done during COVID and ARPA funds, and they are gradually getting those back up to date. There is a little issue with cell phones that staff are using, but they're working on getting those contracts up to date so that they can reissue cell phones to staff that are working. Many of them are old and they're not able to update them appropriately. Other than that, there is one other thing. The October 23rd to the September 24th, in foster care, they reached a 98% rating of doing home visits and face-to-face interviews. And that is higher than even what the state is expecting. So the staff have done a really good job in that. So that's wonderful.
All right. Is that it?
Airport Authority, the runway ribbon cutting is tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock out at the airport. They have worked extremely hard and in getting that airport runway back up to standards. Of course, we live in a temperature where the ground never stays the same, and we have pavement and concrete and things that adjust and move and do whatever. But that runway is finally done, and so will be a good celebration. So you're all invited to come if you'd like to come hang out at the airport and the runway. That is all I have.
Commissioner Hagan.
I don't have anything other than we've already talked about the relocation, the sheriff's relocation committee. I was on that, so we had all of our interviews, and then I have my River Valley Regional Board and the library board tomorrow afternoon. So lots of updates. I'm sure will come next week.
Commissioner Rusted.
Well, tomorrow's MPO meeting was been canceled, and you probably can
Are
see
you
the
really
reason.
sad?
Yeah, no, like.
You can come to one of
I need
mine.
some hugs on the way out, but so I have nothing to report.
That's right. Commissioner Rod.
Okay. Dr. Sins had got a hold of me this week. She would like to appoint an assistant coroner in the case. She's not around, wanted to know if it took commissioner action or if she can just do that. So I sent the question over to State's Attorney Wamstead, which she answered that. She can appoint, but that person has to take the oath, the same as the regular coroner does. So,
Was that up to the
Yes.
meeting? Here? What, wait, a question?
And how is she going, or this person going to be paid? We
that
do
part-
not pay Dr. Sen, so
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask you.
Yeah, I think she has it in her budget, but I'll ask her. She does not? Okay,
Debbie's on this.
so did she give you a figure?
I didn't know anything about this.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I'll have to ask her that question, so. Because that may have to come before the board at the next meeting, so. The other issue is the correctional center, which I gave everybody a copy, actually sent it to you in a text message and forwarded, Brett Burkholder's, notes, but the prison is full. The male capacity is 1,624. And the female capacity is 262. They're both full. And so right now, there are 132 prisoners that have been farmed out to county jails. To hold. Mr. Burkholder has informed me that he's actually over capacity himself right now. Let's see, he's at, yesterday's population was 213, and that's 33 over functional capacity. And he really doesn't have room for any of the state to take anything on from the state or Bismarck State Penitentiary. He's already cut his US Marshals holds down from 15 to 10. And those are the ones that the county makes money on. So it's just an update for everybody. But I asked Commissioner Rusted if he could get a hold of Scott Meyer. And the legislature really needs to deal with this. They can't be throwing this back at the counties all the time on these prisoners. So they need to, and it's something you can't do overnight, but that prison needs to be expanded. And
You mean the state prison?
the state penitentiary, yeah. So, and I mean, it's things like this make me understand even more than ever why we had to expand our jail. You know, because we're over capacity right now, so. Anyway, that's just an update on that, and that's all I've got.
All right. Anything further for you? That's it?
That's it.
And I have nothing more for today. So unfinished new business, Nelson?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, on my desk was this note I hadn't seen before, appointment of the North Dakota State Fair delegate. Did you have a copy to everyone of this?
No, I just gave it to you, Debbie.
And it has to be done, by October 18th. Well, on 2 days.
This is delegate to what?
The North Dakota State Fair delegate.
And who was the
I don't
delegate?
think we had one last year. No.
Is it required that we have one? Or does someone
Well,
want to
apparently
volunteer?
not, because we didn't have one last year.
Oh, okay.
I think Commissioner Knopf usually did it in the past.
That's right.
And I don't think we've had anyone that,
What does it, can you give a description of what this person does? No idea.
you go to this meeting, Bismarck. And you'd be the delegate.
But it's for the state fair, right, that we have?
Yep.
Yeah,
Why
why
not?
not? Or, yeah, why not? It's not
So does it require a one-time meeting in the summer or the spring or does it say?
November 20th,
Oh, now.
yep, at 1 PM in Minot.
Then
Any takers on that?
I think also the members are present helping with state fair every year.
In Minot, in July.
So I don't
I
see
don't
any
know.
volunteer hands going up, but are there any volunteers?
Oh, I'm on hard pass.
I
All
don't
right,
think we have.
that's it.
Anything else? Any correspondence?
I second.
Motion to adjourn.
Give her a chance to make the motion.
My one thing I got.
We have a motion, Chittenden and second, to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. Thank you.
Before you have a question, that